Hi, folks. I just want to talk about dating and how do you know that the person that you're going out with is the right person for you? And is there any signs that you can spot that can help you to discern whether you should be having a relationship with someone? Um, I would say that there are a couple of things to watch out for. Number one is when you believe God has given you a promise. You might feel that God has given you a promise and you hold on to that promise and you plead with God for that promise to be fruition about a certain person. Be very, very careful about that because it might be a promise from God, but it might not. If it's a promise from God, it should bring you peace. If you've not got peace and you're holding on to a promise that you think is from God, then you've got to question whether it really is from God. I felt that God gave me a promise and I held on to that promise, but it was agony. I didn't have peace. And I think it's because I interpreted the promise in the wrong way. So be careful if you get a revelation or a promise or something that you don't misinterpret it, that if you're holding on to it and it's not giving you peace, then you've got to question whether this is really of God or not. Secondly, telltale signs of whether the person is for you or not. If they're not really wanting to spend time with you, quality time, if there's no quality communication, if there's no real openness, if they're not opening up to you, telling you really about themselves, but if they're keeping things secret, if they don't keep their word, if they say they'll do something and then they don't do it, then those are telltale signs that that person's not right for you. Because a person who really loves you will want to be with you, will communicate to you, will open up to you, and will keep their word. So if your partner is just not opening up to you, then you've got to question, is that right for you? If your partner is not being honest with you, not telling you straight things, like for example, if they say, well, um, they'll be at the pictures at such a time and they don't turn up, and then you ask them where they've been, and you kind of think they're not telling you the truth, then you've got to question whether that person is for you or not. Wherever there's a real inconsistency, that those are the alarm bells that have got to start ringing, whether it's a woman or a man. And at the end of the day, listen to the counsel of your friends. Your friends know you; they know best. And if your friends tell you, if all your friends are telling you this is not right for you, then you've got to really sit down and think hard about it, whether you're going in the right direction or not. And at the end of the day, it's about love. And if that person really, really loves you, really does love you, then they will A, want to talk to you as much as they can, be with you as much as they can. They'll be honest with you. Be open to you, and they'll be straight with you. And so those are the telltale signs that I think are helpful. Um, so just pray that God will guide you to the right person, and when it is the right person, you'll know it's the right person. And when it's not the right person, it's very difficult to discern because our emotions get in the way. But you've got to sit down in the cold light of day and you've got to ask yourself some very, very hard questions and serious questions. Number one, do they really love me? Do they really care about me? And if they do, they'll be interested in what you do. They'll be interested in your life. They'll be interested. They'll care about you. If you've got a cold or if you're not well, they'll want to know how you're doing. They'll be your best friend. These are good signs. And if there's not this best friendness, this real openness, if there's not this chemistry of rapport with each other, then you know that you're going in the wrong direction. Especially in terms of when it gets more serious about marriage. If they if you're not praying together, if you're not reading the Bible together, if if that person, and you mustn't expect the other person to treat you right. There's a lot of people out there that have agendas of why they go out with you. So some are looking for attention. Some people are just looking for attention. They like the attention, especially in church. They get attention, and so, oh, look, this person's courting me. Look, I've got all this attention. So there's a lot of people out there that have got who haven't got genuine motives. So you mustn't think, well, they're going to treat you right. They're going to say, well, actually, you're not for me. No, some people will actually lead you on. They'll actually go out with you, but really they've got mixed motives. Sometimes they don't know what they want. And you've got to look after yourself. You've got to pastor yourself, and you've got to say to yourself, you know what? I deserve better than this. I deserve someone that really loves me, not someone who's just going to mess me about, not someone who's just looking for attention or really doesn't know what they want and just leading me down the garden path. You've got to look after yourself and have some self-respect for yourself and think, I deserve better than this. And, not to look back. If that person doesn't really love you, don't look back. Why should you get upset? Why should you feel down? If that person never loved you anyway, if they didn't care about you, if they didn't love you, what's the point? There's someone, even now I still love. I really, really love them, but they don't care about me. They're not bothered about me. So you just got to move on. You just got to say, well, at the end of the day, they had whatever motives, they didn't really care. And, and you've just got to move on. And God will provide the right person for you. God will bring someone. If you're to be married, if you're to be married and to have a husband or a wife, then God will bring you a wife. And if you're struggling with being single, I'm going to make another video about this, and I hope it will be a help to you. But if you're struggling with being single, I understand that, and God knows that, and we'll talk about that in the next video. All right. So those are the signs of knowing whether they're the right one. And the other thing as well, if you're going to get really, really serious, you really need to talk about certain issues, about your view about Christianity. If you're a Calvinist and a charismatic, how are you going to work together? You need to talk about the gifts of the Spirit. You need to talk about Calvinism. Theological issues. You need the role of man and woman in a marriage. You need to talk about these things. And very often we can skirt around the edges, and we can get taken up with emotion, and so you've got to take a step back, and you've got to be a bit more rational and think it through, and not to rush things in terms of, and also not to get too emotional, but to just allow time for a friendship to develop, and a good friendship. And I think that is the key. Is friendship. Is a good relationship for a future marriage is going to be based on relationship, and it's that attention to it's that attention to friendship that is the key. At the end of the day, if you're not the best of friends, then you're not going to get anywhere in the future. And so often we can get entangled with emotion rather than actual true friendship. And if you haven't got that real friendship where that person really trusts you and you trust them, and you open up to each other, and you talk about all these issues, about theological issues, roles of men and women in relationship, and unless it gets to that deep level where you're honest and true, then there's a fakeness there, and it's not going to do you any good. And if you go down that line, and you fully go down that line, it won't do you any good at all. So you need to pull back. And when you do pull back and you say, this isn't right for me, I don't have peace about it, it's hard to break off, especially if you do love that person. But at the end of the day, it's better if you do that, because if they don't love you, if they really, really don't love you, you're in a hiding to nothing. So those are my thoughts on how you know the one is for you. All right, just a few thoughts. I hope that's a blessing to you. Take care and God bless.